Okay, so October is over, and this is the time that I look at all the games I played during the month of October and tally up my top 9 game of the month. So before we look into the top 9, let's look at the stats. So this past month I have played 26 different times with 21 different games, and we played about 6% of the base collection. So in number 9 position is Wavelength. So now Wavelength is a game that I bought around Christmas time for friends of ours, so I had never played it until this month. And I had watched videos, kind of learned how to play, and I see before I bought it, see if it's something I wanted to gift, and it sounded interesting, and I finally got to play it, and it was good. So in this game, it's a little gimmicky because you have this big dial thing, and the person on your team, so you flip that blue lever over and it closes the whole thing so you can't see, and they'll kind of twirl the dial around until they stop, so that pie portion of the dial is going to be somewhere between this range. Now the person that's going to be selecting, kind of doing, I guess it's not the clue giving, it's not really a clue, but the person that's the active player on your team that round will look at the card and they'll give you a range. So for an example, when we played it, we had worst chores to do to the best chores you have to do. And for us, so the worst chores on this side, best chores on this side, and the pie was pretty much towards the worst chore. So you got to come up with a chore that's pretty bad, not the worst, but pretty bad, that you know you really dislike doing, over a chore that you enjoy doing, for example. So the clue that I give was grating cheese. I hate grating cheese. I don't know why, I just do. So luckily I was playing with my friend and she knew how I felt about the grating cheese situation, so she guesses where she thinks my answer would be and kind of moves the dial towards where that rates in that ratio, or between that spread. And then the other team gets to guess if they think my answer is actually more on this side of where she indicated or more on the other side of where she indicated. So, and then you reveal. So if we got it right smack in the middle, you get 4 points. If you're really close, then you would get 3 points on either side, and then there's 2 points. And then the other team, if they've guessed that which side the dial was, like if it was a little bit too far to the left and then they guessed that it would be, well then they get 1 point as well. It was really neat knowing your teammate kind of makes this game helpful, you know, kind of with that example anyways, but it was neat. Definitely party game. We were playing just 4. I think more players would make it a little bit more interesting as well. So this was neat. I really enjoyed that one. And then in number 8 position was Just One. So Just One is a party game that I've owned for quite a while now. I mean, not too long. Obviously, it's a fairly, well, it's not a new game, but I mean, it's been around for a while, but it's newish. What's neat with this one is it's a co-op game. Everybody takes turn being the guesser. So a card will come up and you select the word on the card. So you don't know what it is. You select from 1 to 5. It's okay, well, I take number 2. And then the card that's on number 2, everybody can see except for you. And everybody take their little plastic, I don't know, like pyramid tenty thing, and then they write on there a 1-word clue to help you guess what your word is. Now it has to be only 1 word, and the tricky thing is everybody writes 1 word, and then before they show it to you, they show it to each other. If there's any duplicate, that word is eliminated. So you want to be fairly unique in the clue that you're going to give, but not so far-fetched that the person guessing has no idea what the word they're trying to guess is. This is a crowd pleaser. It always goes really well, and it's a great fun game in group settings. Then in number 7 position is Las Vegas Royale. This is a dice chucking area control game basically. So in this game you've got on either side, there's 6 different sides, and it represents a different casino, and each casino has 2 prizes coming up, and so you flip these cards over and there's different money value to them. So whoever has the most control on the one casino gets the higher prize. The second position gets the lower prize. If for any reason there's 2 people that tied, they eliminate each other. So if somebody has 5 control on one area, then one has 4 and one has 4 and one has 1, well then the high prize will go to the 5 and the second prize will go to the one that just has the 1, because the 4 and 4 eliminate each other. Such a neat game, because you roll your dice and you have to utilize a number that is showcased there. So if you roll 2 3s and you decide you want to try to put them on the 3, you have to use all of those dice. You can't leave any 3s behind, basically. And you keep going around until all the dice have been assigned to a location, and when all the dice are assigned, then you tally up and you collect the scores, or your prizes if you've gained any. After 3 rounds, whoever has the most money is the winner. Now, we always play this one with the golden dice, and that was the version that I had first played. My friend Virgin, he had these golden dice, so I added that to this. And what the golden dice do is it makes you eliminate a dice. So if you roll 2 3s and a golden dice that's a 3, now you will put your 2 3s on the 3 location, and you get to remove somebody else's number 3 dice out, and you give it back to them, so they'll get to roll it again, but it kind of adds an extra element of unknown, kinda. So really neat game. It's a very straightforward, simple game. It's just completely luck driven, but that's fun. And then in my number 6 position, I have Ohanami. So Ohanami is a very simple card game, and it's a card drafting game. So you start with, I believe it's 10 cards, and you select 2 to put in your garden. And you can have up to 3 gardens that you're going to be planting, I guess. Now these cards range from, I think it's 1 to 120, I believe. And the only thing is, when you place a card down, you can add to the top of that garden or to the bottom of the garden, but you have to maintain numerical order. So you've put in a 10 and then you've put in a 15 and you draw a 13, you can't tuck that 13 in. You could put it in another of your 2 or 3 gardens, or maybe you don't take that card, and then when the pile of cards goes to the other player and they draft, then maybe they'll take it and you won't have to deal with that card that kind of gets in the middle. And you do that, play it selecting 2 at a time, switching hands, planting that in your garden, and you do that until you've done all 10 cards. Then you score, and you will score up to 3 times, because you do this 3 times. At the first time, you're scoring just the blue cards, then you're scoring the blue cards and the green cards, and then you're scoring the blue cards, the green cards, the gray cards, and the pink cards. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points win. But then towards the end, your garden's getting pretty cluttered, and you kind of have specific numbers that'll fit or not fit, and it makes it really interesting. It's really a pretty game to play as well, but it's a, it's a simple, but it's strategic. Like, you kind of, okay, well, I'm going to try to keep these ones. Ooh, but I really want to start collecting blues, because the blue you will score up to 3 times. Neat game, really enjoy this one, and it plays quickly, and it's an easy one to get to the table. Then in my number 5 position is Tiny Towns. So I've played this one a couple times now this past month. My sister saw it on my shelf. She's like, ooh, what is that one? I think I want to play that. So, and this one is an interesting game. So you have that little green board, that checker board, and that is your town. So you take turn being the builder, or the active player, and on your turn you will select a color cube that you're going to add to your town. And so let's say I say, okay, I'm going to take a red cube. So then you take a red cube, you put that on in your town, and then everybody else also has to take a red cube. Now at the beginning, not so bad. You start collecting the things, and you're trying to create these patterns that's going to allow you to build some of the buildings. So let's say the pattern is a red cube, a blue cube, and a yellow cube. And when you've created that pattern, you can take those 3 cubes and you place a cottage on. Now the cottage would have to be on one of those 3 locations. Now what's interesting is, now that the cottage is there, that space is no longer available to place your cubes to create the patterns that you need to to build more buildings in your town. So the board gets quite cluttered. So as your board gets quite cluttered, and then it's somebody else's turn and they take a gray cube, and it's like, darn it, I don't need a gray cube, I really wanted a brown cube. So it kind of gets a little bit trickier. And then at some point you play until, yeah, well, that's it, I can't fit anything else on my board. And then you'll score, because every building will score differently depending on where it's located or what it's surrounded by or how many of them you have, and they all have different scoring condition. Whoever has the most point is the winner. Then in number 4 position, I have Vampire Queen. Vampire Queen is such an amazing, simple trick-taking card game. I love this one, and I really suck at this one. With Vampire Queen, so you have cards anywhere from 1 to 14. 14 is the Vampire Queen. That card can count as a 14. It's also a wild card that you can match up with any other cards. So you start with 13 cards, and you will play, first player will play a group of cards. It could be a single card, so I play, let's say, a 2. Then the next player needs to play a single card as well, higher than a 2. And it goes around until you have to pass and nobody can play. Whoever wins that tricks will then place the next cards. One thing with this is the goal is to get rid of the cards in your hand. As soon as somebody gets rid of all their cards, the round is over, and everybody who still has cards in their hands has to tally up the value of their cards, and that goes towards their score. The trick is to score as little as possible. Now what's interesting with this too is there are 2 Vampire Hunter cards. So when you have a Vampire Hunter cards, one is worth 15 points and one is worth 20 points. You can't discard that one. So at the beginning of a round, if you play a vampire card, then everybody has to play a single card. And it can match, it doesn't matter at that point, but whoever has the highest card and wins that trick has to take all of those cards, including the Vampire Hunter, and put it in their hands. So now they have a lot more cards cluttering their hands, plus the Vampire Hunter that's worth a lot more points. But then they get to start. They can't play a Vampire Hunter on the turn that they drew it, but on the next turn they could. Really, really fun, neat game, and the artwork is really neat. They're all different vampire image. Then in number 3 position this month was Quarriors. So I love Quarriors. Quarriors makes me think of Dominion, but with dice. So you have your starting dice that will go in a bag that you'll be starting with. You pull 5 dice and you roll them. Now depending on what you roll, what you can do. So you have the teardrops card, quiddity, I believe, and that is your purchasing power. So you can spend those ones to purchase more dice. You also will get some kind of monster dice, and they have a quiddity cost to activate them. So then you'll have to spend quiddity dice to activate your monster, and they'll go into the ready area. Now, once they're in the ready area, every round, you're going to attack the person to your left and the person to your right. And if they have any dice that are like monster dice in their ready area, then you're attacking them. If their defense is lower than your attack, then those dice are, kind of goes in the discard pile because they've been down or defeated, I guess. And then if your dice remains, let's say you weren't attacked or you weren't defeated and it's still in your ready area at the start of your game, then you get to score that dice, and the goal is to reach a certain score to become the winner. So you want to get these monster dice, get them in the ready area, and hopefully get them to survive until your turn comes along so that you can score them again. The dice, there's so many different dice that you can play, and each dice comes with 3 different cards that you can technically select, so the game changes quite a bit. Just a really fun, neat deck building game, but that's really with dice, so then I really enjoy this one. And here's a close-up on them. So each dice are unique and have different imagery on them, and they have different things that they'll do. Just a fun game. I really enjoy this one. Then in number 2 position, I have Arkham Horror, the card game. Oh, no, sorry, this isn't Arkham Horror. This is Arkham Horror 3rd edition. I just assume a card game. I haven't actually played the card game this past month. So this one is fairly new to my collection, and it's a cooperative Cthulhu horror themed game. So what's really neat with this one is it's very story driven. Depending on the scenario that you play, you build your map the way that it selects, you draw the cards and you start reading the story, and you don't know what's going to happen until you collect enough clues or you've suffered enough damage that the story develops one way or another, and then you bring in more cards and then you get more information onto what's going on or how the story's developed. It's so much fun. I really, really enjoy this one. And it's stunning to look at on the table as well. Then this month in my #1 position is Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. So this is another one that's fairly new to the collection, and it's another cooperative horror themed Cthulhu game. And this one is app driven. So when you play, you have an app that kind of keeps track of everything that's happening. I like to have the apps on the phone or the tablet that's also broadcasting to the TV that I have in the same room, so everybody can kind of see the screen as well. And I highly recommend that you pass the phone or the tablet around for when it's the person's turn so they can control the app as well, so it's not one person doing everything. I think that kind of makes it more inclusive and a little bit more fun for everybody. This one is stunning. So when you start, you have just the one tile and everybody's in there. And then depending on the story, I'll say, okay, so in this room, you notice that there's paper on the floor, and you can go and investigate those paper and see if you get any information onto what's going on or what you need. And you can see that there's a weapon here, and then there's something there, and then there's a door there, and then there's a door there. So it'd be like on your turn, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go and open this door and see what's there. So on the app, you'll select that you're opening this door, and then it says, okay, now you bring in the library card. So you gotta go get the library card and you add that to your map. So the map grows as you explore this mansion. And then you'll kind of go in and you notice that there's a weapon in the corner, and you notice all these things. And it's like, oh, and there's a monster in this room, and then this is what the monster does. And then you'll do your turns, and then the monster does its turn, and it does different things. You can take physical damage and sanity damage in this one as well. And if you take too much sanity damage, you can go insane. Then you got to take a card that's made you go insane. And depending on what the card does, how that insanity is affecting you. Maybe you're very strong-willed and you're actually not taking any sanity damage per se, and you're good to go. But maybe it changes your win condition, or you know, like it affects how you play going forward. So neat game. It looks stunning on the table. It's fun to play, and I definitely want to play this one some more. And that was it for my top 9 games for the month of October. So be sure to follow me on Facebook at Didsbury and Area is playing all the games. I'm also on Instagram as BoardGame_Mama, and my YouTube channel is BoardGameMama. So we'll see you at the next top 9 game for the month of November, so stay tuned to see what we play this month.